What we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
With the son of the legendary Rob Skiba, Jeremiah Skiba, what's up?
With my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Grant. It's like I don't even want to wake up.
He's on a quest for truth.
Bobby, it's your favorite president. I forgive you, Bobby, for being such a loser about the election. It's not your fault you were born with a low IQ. It's not your fault, Bobby. Believe me. Bobby, your favorite president won. Kamala lost. She lost so strongly. You were wrong. You're a loser.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You realize, but
Whoa.
no, look at me. I want you to look at me.
sure.
You got a camera on me here?
The ring? No, it's the ring.
But you realize my kids live in this building, right? But I want you to know something.
We love the children. We're doing great deals for the children.
So be real careful.
Okay.
If this camera was here, I'd snap your neck in half and break your neck right out. So you know that, don't you?
Okay. All right, Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, ladies and gentlemen, class act. Believe me. Believe me.
Get out of here.
Okay.
I want you to get out of here.
Oh, he's yelling at me. I'm a citizen of this. I was born and raised in New York City. I love you, Alec. Alec, look, I want to attack your favorite president, Alec. Look, I love you. I love you, Alec. He's got more balls than De Niro, that I can tell you. De Niro ran away. Alec confronted. That's good.
Hey, Skiba News Nation family, welcome to episode 113 of Skiba News Nation, your weekly source of the latest news, controversial topics, conspiracies, forgotten history, and so much more. I'm your host, Jeremiah Skiba, and today we're going to be talking about the coming one world religion, mind control and Project Bluebeam, the problem with modern Christianity, quantum computing, was Epstein an intelligence asset, FBI whistleblower coming forward, an all-new Opus Corner, and for History's Mysteries, we're going to be talking about the Ozempic Epidemic. Please excuse my sense of humor, Volume 12. Stay awake, not woke, subscribe, and stay tuned. As always, I'd like to introduce my great and insightful co-host, Jake Grant. Jake, that clip actually is a little bit longer, and I should have played the first part, but he basically accuses Alec Baldwin of murdering a woman, which he did, but that part was cut out for whatever reason. But how are you doing, man?
Oh, doing good, man. It's always with ambush journalism that you get the best responses and really show what's in the heart of the people they're interviewing. So,
Yep.
Very interesting.
Awesome, man.
Well, yeah, man. Things are going good over here. I'm turning 30 at the end of this week. Actually, at the airing of this broadcast, this Friday is my 30th birthday. So I'm like clutching on to the last days of my 20s with all that I have. And then it's a new horizon going forward.
I felt the same from 29 to 30, but I hope you feel the same thing, that you don't feel any older. It's all the same, man.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be all right. But, you know, it's one of those things, you know, you never think you're going to get to this age. And now here it is. Holy cow. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, you got some good current news for me today?
Yes, I do.
All right. Let's roll.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Before I get into our segment today, I had a quick favor for everybody to jump over, if you're on TikTok, and follow me at Jake2Human on TikTok. I'm trying to get past 1,000 followers on there, so I'd greatly appreciate you guys helping me out. But our first news story today is going to be about a interesting couple tweets that Elon Musk recently put out about how we are on the event horizon of the singularity. Wow. I mean, when you see language like this being put out there, it means they're really, really on to something big. And of course, us lay people will never get our eyes on the behind the scenes of putting together the alien god, as Elon Musk referred to it. But we can anticipate how this intelligence could be used to orchestrate global deception in the future. And of course, since I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm just going to put my tinfoil hat on and we're going to watch this video about the coming global one world religion that could be made possible by illusionary techniques. Project Bluebeam, all orchestrated by the singularity. Check it out.
The big space show in the sky. He discovered that NASA and a few intelligence agencies developed the technology to project 3D holographic images into the sky. I say into because the system uses a combination of satellites and ground-based systems to manipulate the ionosphere. You don't need a screen. Images can be projected onto the particles in the atmosphere. The projections will appear so lifelike that people will believe they are witnessing a miracle. The dominant god of each region will appear in the sky. Imagine looking up and seeing Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, all speaking to their followers in their own language. Their god will tell them their beliefs are all wrong, then will slowly morph into a new god. This is the first appearance of the new Messiah, God of the New World Order.
The projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Krishna will merge into one, and explanations of mysteries and revelations will be disclosed. This one God will, in fact, be the Antichrist, who will explain that the various scriptures have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, and that the religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother and nation against nation. Therefore, old religions must be abolished to make way for the new age, new world religion, representing the one God Antichrist they see before them.
Debunking old religions will be enough to convert some people to this new one. Giant deities appearing and then converging into one Antichrist will convert a lot more. But these technologies won't work on everybody. Non-religious people will be terrified for sure, but they won't suddenly believe in a god based on a hologram, no matter how real it looks. The Shadow Masters know that. The Shadow Masters know that to create a one-world government and single religion, they need 100% of the population to believe. But you can't force a religious belief on somebody. They need to make the decision themselves, or at least be convinced they made it. The elites know this. That brings us to step 3. If you're not convinced by what you see, they'll use technology to broadcast the message directly into your brain. You may not realize it, but this technology is being used on you right now. When the new God appears in step 2, you'll hear him speaking whether you believe in him or not. And you won't be able to escape his voice because you're not hearing it through your ears. His voice is coming from your mind. The third step of Project Bluebeam is mind control. They'll use electromagnetic waves to interfere with brain function. They can shape perceptions, create emotions, and influence beliefs.
The third step in the Bluebeam project uses electronically augmented two-way communication, where ELF, VLF, and LF waves will reach each person from within his or her own mind, convincing each of them that their own God is speaking to them from the very depths of their own soul. Such rays from satellites are fed from the memories of computers that have stored massive data about every human on Earth and their languages. The rays will then interlace with their natural thinking to form what we call diffuse artificial thought. That kind of technology goes into the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s research where the human brain has been compared to a computer. Information is fed in, processed, integrated, and then a response is formulated and acted upon.
We know for a fact that the US military and intelligence have experimented with mind control. We know they used sound waves in the Vietnam War to make the enemy anxious without knowing why. The CIA used these and all kinds of other methods to scramble people's brains and program them to be sleeper agents.
Link down in the breadbasket, Chief.
The government uses EM waves for all kinds of dark purposes. They've patented a device that can trigger emotions in a target from a half-mile away. But what's really scary about the patent is that it claims it can piggyback its signal onto any frequency. That would mean we can never escape it. Everything that uses electricity has an electromagnetic field. Think you're safe living off the grid? Nope. Radio signals can bounce off the ionosphere and reach anywhere in the world. The fourth and final stage of Project Bluebeam is the most sinister. Serge Manasse predicts a universal supernatural manifestation with electronic means. In other words, an alien invasion. The elites will promise to unite and defend the world against a common enemy. But to do that, they'll need emergency power. But it's only temporary, so we won't resist authority. We'll beg for it.
All right, so of course Sam Altman, we covered last week, has talked about how the general AI superintelligence is simply a year away. But when we see posts like that from Elon Musk, it seems to be much closer than they're letting on. And why is AI necessary for the great deception of Project Bluebeam and all these different things to be even possible? Is you would need a massive coordinated effort to make this a convincing thing. And for those of you who are wondering, well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I don't believe in Project Bluebeam, I want you to see this next video, which shows you that the groundwork is already in place for energy centers to manipulate the weather, and all it takes is for them to bump up that signal and start to affect the ionosphere, to cast electrical things into the sky that change the things we see in the heavens. The groundwork has already been laid, and so I would suggest you check out this next video, which shows that they're already manipulating the weather. So what would it be to boost the power a little bit and start to manipulate the very things that we see and hear? Check this out.
Okay, I just wanted to take a minute to address some of the questions and comments that I've received about these electromagnetic pulses we're seeing going across the country from east to west at night while we sleep. There's a few people that seem to think these are birds or water condensation. Okay, you see this right here? All right, that's weather.
Look at these laser beams.
It's
like
moving.
Outbursts.
All right, that's how you can tell. These are tower installations. These are NEXRAD stations. When they light up, they don't move. It's easier to tell right here.
Wow.
It's harder to tell in Texas because there's so many, they just meld into each other. But look down here. You see this? When this lights up, you see it radiating from the central point, which is black, radiates outward. All right? Let me stop this here.
So for those of you who aren't conspiracy theorists, what the heck is that? You can obviously see in the radar that there's an energy being emitted from these, strategically placed locations all around the US. And of course, this is very likely the case in many countries all around the world. But then they come out and deny any efforts to modify the weather. They deny chemtrails. Even today, despite the Paris Climate Accords and China and Saudi Arabia coming out and basically admitting to it. So would you be so surprised if the technology is to the point that they would be able to project a messiah figure in the sky, with coordinated effort from the satellites that are being put up by Elon Musk and all these different things collaborated by artificial intelligence? And each individual person getting a specific message spoken to them by the AI alien god, which can tailor its message directly to you, for you, and know almost everything about you. Well, at least everything you've uploaded, that is. So with that said, we're going to, of course, get into the AI advancements, but first I wanted to talk about the church system at large and how well equipped people are going to be that have been sitting in the back church pew not paying attention. Well, it's going to be about as easy as this. Look at this video that talks about the psychology of fleas. And maybe you'll see the correlation.
They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. The fleas are placed inside the jar. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. They are left undisturbed for 3 days.
All right, so of course in no way am I trying to come across with a heavy hand and be so hard on church people and on Christianity. But the concept is this, is that there's a lot of people who depend on their pastor to tell them what they know and what they believe. And so when presented with hard questions and hard truths, there's generations of people that are totally ill-equipped to stand on the word of Yah, right? And so we see scenes like this where things are literally happening in their midst. People with important questions disturbing the peace, and the pastors just are side-blinded to it. And I thought this is a great narrative example of what I'm kind of trying to describe to you guys, where the fleas don't know how to jump outside of their designated height. Check this out.
Thank you, Lord Jesus, for the... Oh God, because joy has come into the world. Thank you.
So, you know, it's kind of a funny scene, and the guy just continues on with his prayer as if nothing happens. And I'm fearful for systems of, you know, country club religion with ill-equipped, you know, lay people that are going to have all these things happen in the world, and they're just going to blindly just try to continue to exist because I'm in my safe space. I can't pay attention to these world-changing events and these deceptions that are taking my children and robbing my family of any solid actual belief. You know, I think that's the troubling thing. And you know, that's of course, you know, the side of it where people have found a group of people to be comfortable and have just encouraged them in a social setting, but they've not been equipped. And then you have almost the nefarious side of organized religion, which reminds me of this next clip. Check this out.
Tobacco and enterprises to build very large needles and very small camels. Unless I'm completely missed the message of the Bible, somewhere in here is my ticket to heaven. I've also invested millions of dollars from my tobacco and enterprises to build very large needles and very small camels. Unless I'm completely missed the message of the Bible, somewhere in here is my ticket to heaven.
Okay, so, you know, and that's what we see in modern religion, people who've just kind of gone to school to make a quick buck off of being a good sophist. Their goal is like to build bigger and bigger steeples and larger cathedrals and, you know, put on the really nice, you know, Christmas play. But when the foundation is not laid in truth, it leaves so many people susceptible for a great falling away, that all of these deceptions that come on the world are, you know, we got to be prepared, guys. And so I'm not trying to be hard on anybody who's within the church system. I'm just trying to say you got to figure it out, and you got to be prepared for your sake. You got to have a faith in your own life that's not dependent on what somebody else is saying to you or what your pastor teaches you. You got to know what you know when you know it, because when the deceptions comes, it's going to blow it all down if you're not ready. And so let's check out this next clip, which is how they're casting spells on the public. Some of the things to overcome in our generation, right?
There's a very strange show on Apple TV called Severance. Have you seen this? Have you heard about it? Because as you watch this video, we are on the precipice of a reality that's been carefully manufactured, programmed, and placed into our subconscious minds. Some would say ritualistically, presenting itself under the guise of entertainment. The show Severance isn't just a psychological thriller. In my opinion, it's a warning, a blueprint, a sigil-infused prophecy, so to speak, of what the globalist technocratic elite have planned for us. What if the show Severance isn't science fiction? What if it actually could come true? We're going to explore this idea today, because some say that this show is not science fiction. This is predictive programming in its purest form. For those who don't know, predictive programming is the elite's method of conditioning the masses. Hollywood, big tech, and the ruling class elites use predictive programming to mirror their actual agenda. So when it finally manifests in reality, the public is desensitized, and they're thinking, oh, this is just like that TV show I saw. By doing this, they bypass our natural resistance to tyranny and accelerate the control of our lives. Have you ever heard somebody say, oh, it's just like a movie? I felt like I was watching a movie while they were in a very intense situation. This is a very common thing. In fact, when 9/11 happened, I remember everybody in my classroom at the time kept saying, it's like we're watching a movie. It's like a movie. Is this actually happening? Because it feels like we're in a movie. I know what you're thinking. What does predictive programming and sigil magic have to do with the show Severance in a corporate dystopian media drama? Well, let me explain. Sigil magic is an occult practice where symbols, images, and even entire narratives are imbued with intention. Some people believe that television shows and films are used to cast their spells, implanting ideas into the collective unconscious that will be made manifest sometime in the future. And the show Severance is no exception to this, in my opinion. Now, what do we see in Severance? It's a world where people willingly give up the control of their own minds, allowing a corporate entity to decide who they are, when they think, and what reality they accept. Except in the show, this goes horribly wrong because humanity is not meant to fracture their mind like this. So they push back against it, sometimes without even realizing what's happening. This isn't some fictional dystopia. I believe it's a ritualized initiation into a post-human age. Let's break down some real-life parallels between Severance and the world unfolding before us. Because, my friends, what if this isn't just a television show? It's a confession from the technocratic overlords about what's coming next. The show surrounds a corporation named Lumen Industries, where employees are forcibly split into quote-unquote innies and outies. Innie meaning when they arrive at work, a part of their brain turns off. The innie is activated inside the workspace, and the outie, meaning outside the workspace, is turned off. So the reality of the innie, the ones that's working, and the reality of the outie, the one that's not working, are completely separated from each other, where they don't even know the details of the other part of their own life. Meaning, when they go to work, their brain switches to the innie part because they're inside work, and they have no idea about their outie life. And then when they leave work, the computer chip inside their brain switches off, and they have no idea what they did that whole day. So to the outie's perspective, they arrive at work, get in the elevator, and then without any time passing, they worked a full day and they had no idea what happened. You see, a reality like this is far more sinister than anybody realizes. It's one where artificial intelligence, brain-computer interfaces, and maybe even the possibility of humanoid robots take full control over the human race. Now, this is no longer speculation, everybody, what we're talking about here. This technology does exist. It's just right now in its primitive form, and as we all know, technology doubles every year, which is called Moore's Law. And if you listen to what Elon Musk and others are saying, by the end of this year, Neuralink, humanoid robots, and an AI control system will be fully implemented into the public. These things aren't just technological advances, in my opinion. They are the foundation of a new global system, one where human consciousness is fractured, controlled, and ultimately made obsolete. You see, we will be slaves, letting the AI implement their will on us. the show Severance may become a reality. You see, in Severance, workers at Lumen voluntarily undergo a surgical procedure that splits their consciousness, like we talked about. But let's break it down just a little bit more. As we talked about before, the innie, who only exists at work, and the outie, who only exists out of work. This idea is not fantasy. In fact, to those who have the eyes to see, a version of it is happening right now under the guise of Neuralink. Elon Musk already announced that Neuralink's first human brain chip was successful, and now I believe they're on the second or the third one, being implemented as a guise to help people with disabilities and enhance human cognition. But let's be real here, folks. Once this technology is fully flushed out, what's stopping corporations from using the technology to control employees, just like Lumen Industries does? Imagine a real-world scenario in which the Severance chip, aka Neuralink or something to that effect, doesn't just separate work life from personal life, but it allows employers, governments, and the AI overlord to monitor, manipulate, and even reprogram a person's very thoughts. They will sell it as a quote-unquote productivity booster, and they'll tell workers it's just a way to reduce stress and increase focus, and be more productive, and make our company more money. But what they are doing is removing our humanity and removing our ability to resist. Severance is about corporate control, but let's take it a step further. Because Elon Musk himself predicted that humanoid robots will outnumber humans by 2040. And if you don't believe this, I suggest that you look into it, because as we speak in the beginning of 2025, these humanoid robots are being pushed out en masse by Tesla, by Amazon, rumor has it by Apple, by all the big tech companies in America. Even Mark Zuckerberg is talking about creating humanoid robots. And that's not even taking into account China, who are trying to mass produce these things as we speak. This is all happening within our lifetime. Tesla's Optimus robots are already being designed to replace human workers. In Severance, workers like Mark, Dylan, and Helly performed mindless, repetitive tasks while their corporate overlords stripped them of free will. Let's connect some of these dots, guys. First, they introduced brain chips like Neuralink to help people, just like Lumen's Severance procedure was sold as a way to improve the work-life balance. Then, AI becomes a decision maker, monitoring, assessing, and ultimately controlling the workforce. Finally, corporations and governments implement full-scale mind control, turning workers into literal drones who only exist to serve the machine. In my opinion, this is not a theory, because the pieces are already falling into place. Look at the way that big tech companies are tracking employees and using AI to quote-unquote optimize human labor. This is happening already. Just imagine what will happen 10, 15, 20 years down the road when these technologies become implemented into our everyday lives. It seems that the transition between Severance's corporate hellscape and a real-world AI dictatorship is already underway. In the show, at Lumen Industries, employees don't own their own minds. They don't even remember what happens outside of work. What happens when corporations own the data in your brain? What happens when AI decides that you cannot think a certain way? There's no question that we are heading into a future where humanity is subjugated at the will of AI. You see, Severance gives us a glimpse into this future. The workers at Lumen aren't even aware that they're slaves, and if we aren't careful, neither will we. So the question is, where do we go from here? Our only option is to pray. Because the way things are going, we won't even realize we lost until it's too late. We are the frog in the pot of boiling water. The water is heating up as we speak. Once it starts boiling, we won't even realize that it's over.
Wow. So just as it was put there, it's not just the systems of religion that can put us to sleep. It is also the workspace environment that lulls us into just kind of going along to get along. And so it makes me want to show just one more time this video of the fleas, because it's a perfect analogy for how people are controlled, and they're put into these systems of school and religion and work environment that keep you from knowing you can just jump out. Check this out one more time.
Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. placed inside the jar, they are left.
So Kush Patel brought in as the head of the FBI just recently, and I saw this post that I thought was pretty interesting. It says, if you were unvied, you resisted global propaganda worth over $100 billion. The fact that you withstood such intense pressure shows how strong you are, making you a rare breed in a time when that kind of backbone is nearly extinct. So, wow, really good things for the guy who's going after the Jeffrey Epstein Isles. And, of course, we're going to cover that here in a moment. First, we're going to finish off this AI advancement topic. But I think the point being is that in 2020, they didn't have a global superintelligence, one world, like, alien god to coordinate their propaganda. It cost $100 million, to grunt force it, right? Back in 2020, 2021. And it's not that starting off all AI things are going to be bad. We already know in terms of creativity, like allowing people to generate their wildest dreams, it's really useful, right? In terms of helping productivity, in terms of typing out your letter or organizing your thoughts and ideas. ChatGPT and AI is really helping people in a lot of ways. I think what we have to be wary of is there's a carrot on the end of the stick, if you know what I mean. There's a worm on the end of the hook, right? And so let's go ahead and look at some of the thoughts Alex Jones has on the advancement of AI technology recently.
Elon Musk made a very chilling statement when he came out and said that we are approaching the event horizon, or basically at the event horizon of the singularity. That's the big...
He's talking about this right here. We are on the event horizon of the singularity. I guess it's just a coincidence that the plot to the 1997 movie Event Horizon is about a ship's drive opening a gateway to a hellish dimension outside of the known universe, implied to be hell. And that event horizon has attained sentience. Go figure that the image used for Grok is a black hole, which is the singularity, which also has clear Saturn symbolism, which I'll come back to. Now, the majority of people who hear about the singularity, they automatically think about AI or technology with the AI singularity, which is a hypothetical future when artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence. But at the root, the base definition to the singularity is the quality or state of being singular or becoming one. And this is exactly why he chose the name Grok for his artificial intelligence, because it means to understand so thoroughly that the observer becomes a part of the observed, to merge, blend, intermarry, lose identity. So the true singularity is coming. For those who choose the narrow path that leads to life, that is Jesus Christ, you will become one, becoming singular with him. And for those who choose the broad road that leads to destruction, going towards this world system, going towards their own self-righteousness, going towards technology, artificial intelligence, they shall become one, singular with this world. Now let's go back to Grok's new logo of the singularity, which is a picture of a black hole, and it also has Saturn symbolism with the ring. Now what I find interesting about this image depicting a black hole, which reminds me of Revelation 9:11, and they had as a king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, like a black hole, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in the Greek he has the name Apollyon. What I found interesting in my studies about this figure, Apollyon or Abaddon, according to Derek Gilbert here, is that this individual, this entity, is Saturn. As we can see right here from his article, The Rise of Apollyon, that came out in 2022, which is about his book, The Return of Saturn, which I highly recommend. He writes, I believe the identity of Abaddon and Apollyon in Revelation 9:11, the angel of the bottomless pit, is Saturn, the Watcher Chief Shemiaza. The opening of the bottomless pit marks his literal return to Earth. It should be obvious by now that the return of old Saturn's reign will not bring the yearned for golden age that's been dreamed of for more than 2,000 years. For those who do not know, the golden age of Saturn goes back to Greek and Roman mythology, which is also Chronos in the Greek, which is a period of peace and prosperity that appears in, again, Roman and Greek literature. That's strange. Who is obsessed with Greek mythology and the term golden age? Oh yeah, that's right, Mr. Golden Dawn himself.
Proudly proclaim that the golden age of America is upon us.
I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza #1. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza #1.
So I, for one, find this very interesting that the logo for Grok now is the singularity, which is a black hole, which shows Saturn symbolism. Literally showing you that Saturn, Abaddon, Apollyon is coming out of the bottomless pit. And I guess it's just a coincidence that CERN, the Large Hadron Collider that smashes particles together at light speed, trying to create black holes, has a statue of Shiva, the god of destruction, with a portal around him. Again, as you can see here, in Hinduism, Shiva is known as the destroyer of worlds. Just as we know Apollyon, Abaddon, or Saturn is known as the destroyer. But now let's go back to CERN and how they are unveiling the universe's secrets, a quantum leap with AI at CERN. And how in this article we can see the parallels between quantum AI and CERN's cutting-edge research are striking. Both delve into the strange world of the subatomic, seeking answers to fundamental questions. So right here, this idea of delving into the strange world of the subatomic that is literally going into a different dimension. And if you continue reading in this article, you will see how quantum AI offers the potential to crack the mysteries of the universe. As quantum AI and quantum computing continue to evolve, we can expect even more remarkable breakthroughs at the intersection of artificial intelligence and particle physics. And I guess it's just a coincidence that they use the name Stargate for this new project or operation where they are combining artificial intelligence with something else that you put inside your body. Because the ultimate goal will be this right here, the bio-digital convergence in the merging of biological and digital technologies to create new applications and technologies. So basically merging man with artificial intelligence.
The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best.
As you just heard from the false prophet's mouth, the best situation is to merge with artificial intelligence, and go figure, again, the name Grok means to merge with. And what intelligence does he want you to merge with? Saturn, Abaddon, Apollyon, who comes out of the bottomless pit. This is why you will see Saturn symbolism everywhere in this world system. Also why you will see the black cube everywhere, because this also symbolizes Saturn. I guess that's just a coincidence right there. And does nobody else find it interesting that at the 9/11 memorial site, they have what appears to be a cube bottomless pit? And again, Revelation 9:11 is about the bottomless pit and the king of the bottomless pit, which is Abaddon, Apollyon, or Saturn. And like I pointed out earlier in this video, which one of my followers informed me about the plot to this movie, Event Horizon, which again was about the opening of a gateway to a hellish dimension outside of the known universe, and that the Event Horizon has attained sentience. But when this guy right here says that we are on the event horizon of the singularity, he is telling you that we are on the event horizon of the Great Tribulation, where the bottomless pit shall be opened and Saturn, Apollyon, Abaddon shall be released. And their ultimate goal of this singularity is for unbelievers to become one with the Antichrist through the mark of the beast. Because please remember, the base definition of singularity is to become one with, a state of being singular. The false prophet is very blatant with his messaging here, but you have to have eyes to see and ears to hear, as we saw this, how 2 years ago he commissioned an art piece called A Fork in the Road. For those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, you understand spiritually the fork in the road that he's talking about. Because at the end of the day, there's only two categories of individuals: those who are going to become singular with Jesus Christ, who choose the narrow way, or those who become singular with this world, becoming singular with the Antichrist. And I personally believe that this project right here will have everything to do with the second option for those individuals who become singular with the Antichrist. But this will be for another video. Because with that being said, we as believers in Jesus Christ, that he is the truth, the way, and the life, and no one shall get to the Father besides through him, we need to keep our eyes focused upon him. He is the true shepherd. He is going to guide us through this crazy world that we are living in. He shall provide us discernment, wisdom, and understanding, but it will be our heart posture. Peace that surpasses all understanding, that will guard your heart and your mind. And he does not give us the spirit of fear, but the spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. And right now he is calling his children to service, to be watchmen and watchwomen on the wall, looking for him and warning others of what's coming, sharing the gospel, being salt and light in this evil and wretched world. So with that, guys, stay encouraged, be edified, knowing how close we are, looking up, realizing that our redemption draws near. Go out and be salt and light in this world.
All right, guys. So, Jeremiah, I wanted to ask you, do you remember when we were first starting to play around with ChatGPT and you would ask it questions about like Donald Trump, and the response it would give back would always be very liberally biased, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I cannot comment on political figures. But then you ask it about Kamala Harris, and it's like, oh, she's an upstanding woman of the minority race of the United States of America who most likely will be the most female president we've ever had. You know,
Very biased, yeah.
do you remember how that went down? Yeah, man. Do you remember any other ways it was biased? I know we had a lot of fun with that thing.
If you brought up any kind of quote conspiracy theory, even if it was true, it would be like, I can't answer your conspiracy theory questions. Sorry about that. You know, like and then it would have like sources that were like, you know, like those stupid fake news websites. But like Jeffrey Epstein definitely didn't.
Yeah, it's just like what pops up underneath YouTube videos, right? It's a biased information input that causes a biased information output. So when you think about it, the reason back then ChatGPT was liberal and wouldn't comment on Donald Trump was because the people who were feeding it the information it had to work with were feeding it their side. And so in the absence of a full perspective, you're always going to get a biased answer. And I said this same thing on a Twitter post I wanted to share with you guys. So I said a quote from Elon. Just recently he posted, he wants to, you know, make his priority preserving the light of consciousness. And that's why he wants to go to Mars for some reason. And so I tagged him and I asked this question for the singularity, right? An incomplete picture will always spit back a biased answer. What are we feeding the superintelligence in terms of information regarding the ancients and their wisdom? Is truth only what is uploaded? Truly, I mean, really, let's ask our question. Is truth only what's uploaded? Or is truth broader than that? And will AI be able to take into account the information it doesn't have yet? And so to me, it becomes an imperative call to arms to everybody who's a person of faith and has learned truth and wisdom as founded in the scriptures to take that and start to publicize it. Put it everywhere you can. Post it on Twitter. Post it on Facebook. Share the truths of the wisdom of the ancients, because this is the reason. There's not a lot of people who are doing the groundwork showing that for thousands of years there has been this baton passed from generation to generation holding a flame of truth regarding the true faith of our forefathers. And so if AI, you know, let's just call him Grok, doesn't have access to that information, he doesn't have the information of the walking, active, living faith of true believers to draw on in his conclusion, then of course the AI super god is going to spit back an answer that is so devoid and inverted to the faith that we think is true that it truly will be the creation of the Antichrist image of the beast. This system that has a very biased answer, and for a guy who's looking for the answers of the universe, this is very concerning if the full perspective, the full spectrum is not included. And so that's why I really think it's the time of, you know, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And it's a call to arms to be warriors of truth for our listeners, to get online and post the things that you think are valuable, that you think are true, so that perhaps, you know, a little bit of the scales of that information that is going to be regurgitated back to mankind in mass by our individualized keeper, right? Perhaps it will pick up on some of the good. And with this understanding, I wanted to share one more tweet that I posted just recently, and it's this. It says, AI spirituality is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Many are about to partake of its fruit. But do you know what the tree of life is? And guys, AI is going to contain the culmination of the knowledge of good and evil. So what's the tree of life? And you're going to have to answer that question yourself. What is the tree of life in the analogy? If we have AI being created, I don't know. You answered the question, right? But if you guys are willing to go ahead and jump over on Twitter and retweet this particular question to Elon, and we're going to see if he can get a response. And then if he does, or if I get a retweet from, one of the developers of the AI, we'll feature it here on Skiba News Nation. I think that would be a really cool segment. But with that said, once again, we're seeing all kinds of people talking about how things are about to change. Here's a breakdown of Microsoft claiming we're opening the gates of hell. Check it out.
Imagine a machine so powerful it could unravel the secrets of the universe in a heartbeat. A device that doesn't just compute but communes with forces we can't see, locked away in dimensions we barely dare to name. This isn't some sci-fi fever dream. It's here, now, whispered into existence by the tech titans at Microsoft. A quantum chip unlike anything humanity's ever forged, birthed from a mysterious particle that dances on the edge of reality itself. After 17 years of clandestine research, they've cracked open a door. To what, they won't fully say, but the air's thick with unease, because this isn't just about solving equations or curing diseases. This is about something ancient, something otherworldly, humming in the dark heart of a palm-sized portal that leads into another dimension. Microsoft calls it a breakthrough, a quantum chip that cracks open doors to places we should not peek into. They say it runs on a new state of matter, something they cooked up after 17 years of digging in the shadows. This is not about making your phone faster. It is about pulling power from the edges of reality, like Revelation 9:11 warns us about. This chip is small, fits in your hand, but Microsoft says it is packed with millions of bits called qubits. These are not normal bits like in your laptop. They are quantum, alive with strange rules, and built from something called the Majorana particle. Microsoft brags they tamed this weird speck, a half-real, half-ghost thing that can blink out or stay put. They say it is a big deal because it is steady, not shaky like other qubits, and can scale up fast. They are aiming for 1 million of them, enough to solve problems too big for every computer on Earth combined. But here is the chill. Where is that power really coming from? They say it is science, but it feels like they are fishing in waters too deep, pulling up answers from somewhere else. Microsoft calls this a new state of matter, a mix of stuff like indium arsenide and aluminum, twisted into what they name a topoconductor. They say it is tougher, keeps the qubits quiet and strong, so they do not mess up. This chip can figure out stuff with 30 or 40 bits of matter in a snap, stuff that would take forever otherwise. Microsoft is all proud, saying it is years, not decades, from changing everything. But that speed, it is too quick. Feels like something is lending a hand from the other side. Think about the Bible, where Revelation 9:11 says, "And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon, a ruler rising from a dark hole with a swarm of tormentors that twist nature into something strange and half-formed." This Majorana particle in Microsoft's chip feels too close to that. Microsoft says they made it, measured it, and took control, building it piece by piece like they're shaping a new world. They boast of endless power, perfect fixes, and machines that outthink us all. Now, listen to what their own scientists have to say about it.
What would the world look like with a computer that could accurately model the laws of nature? That's the promise of quantum computing, but there have always been limitations. Now, as one of our longest running research projects, our team at Microsoft has been able to take a subatomic particle that has only been theorized until now, and not only observe it, but control it. creating an entirely new material and a new architecture for quantum computing. One that can scale to millions of qubits on a single chip.
This is not a work of science, it's a work of science and art.
I gotta be honest, some of these ideas are a little science fiction sounding.
It will solve problems unsolvable by the combined power of all the world's compute today, and promises to revolutionize fields such as medicine, material science, and our understanding of the natural world. Our first quantum processor based on this architecture is the Majorana 1. At the core of a quantum computer are these qubits. Qubits are like our classical bits, right? These are essentially zeros and ones in a transistor. And we need the analog of that in quantum computing. The analog is a qubit, a quantum bit, that serves as that core information unit. It's where we store the information and then we process on those qubits to create computation and ultimately, get solutions back out. Now, there's many different ways, right, to create a qubit. The reason quantum computing has been so slow to progress is that the industry has been struggling with problems making qubits reliable and resistant to noise. Progress has been incremental. We see the states of matter every day. Solids keep their shape, liquids vary but keep their volume, gases expand to fill the space they're in, all defined ultimately by how their atoms behave. But what if there were more? What if, under the right conditions, you could engineer more? States that have only ever been theorized, that would change how subatomic particles actually behave? 100 years ago, mathematicians predicted one such new state of matter, the topological state. And since then, researchers have been looking for a very specific, very useful quasi-particle within it, the Majorana particle. Last year, we were able to observe it for the first time. And this year, we're able to control it and use its unique properties to build a topoconductor, a new type of semiconductor that operates also as a superconductor. With this material, we can build a whole new foundational architecture for our quantum computers, a topological core, allowing us to scale to not tens or hundreds of qubits on a chip, but millions, all in the palm of your hand.
Majorana's theory showed that mathematically it's possible to have a particle that is its own antiparticle. That means you can take two of these particles and you bring them together, and they could annihilate and there's nothing left. Or you could take two particles and you bring them together and you just have two particles. Sometimes it's nothing, the zero state, and sometimes it's the electron, the one state.
So it really has taken quite some thinking, right? Some time to design a device, design a chip that can enable measurement of this literally elusive particle. We've designed a chip that is able to measure the presence of Majorana. Majorana allows us to create a topological qubit. A topological qubit is reliable, small, and controllable. This solves the noise problem that creates errors in qubits. Now that we have these topological qubits, we're able to build an entirely new quantum architecture, the topological core, which can scale to 1 million topological qubits on a tiny chip.
Every single atom in this chip is placed purposefully. It is constructed from ground up. It is entirely a new state of matter. Think of us as building the picture by painting it atom by atom. In a regular chip, the computation is done using electrons. We use electrons for compute. We use Majoranas for computing. It's an entirely new particle. It's half electron.
When we look at the design of this chip, right, first of all, you can fit so much. on just a small form factor, right? This chip can store over 1 million qubits, right? Over 1 million can fit on just this small form factor. In addition, we don't want to wait centuries or millennia for a solution. And so this chip also offers the right speed to get solutions from the chip in a reasonable, efficient, amount of time. That's the beauty in this qubit design, the topological qubit. It has the right size, the right speed, and the right type of controllability. And all of that together means that it has an ability to scale like no other.
We call the ages of mankind by materials. We've talked about the Stone Age, we've talked about the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, the Steel Age, the Silicon Age. Materials define our culture, define our mankind, define our progress. Thus, what could be more powerful than having a machine that can let you radically change the way we work with materials?
Our leadership has been working on this program for the last 17 years. It is the longest running research program in the company. And after 17 years, when we are showcasing our results, we are showcasing results that are not just incredible, they're real. They're real because they will fundamentally redefine how the next stage of the quantum journey takes place.
We're at the cusp of a quantum age, and Majorana 1 is just the beginning.
All right, guys, so let me get your response to that. I know, Opa, you probably have some totally geeked out thoughts about the computer advancement. And Jeremiah, what are some of your thoughts as well?
I don't know. I think Opa would be a better person to answer that. I don't really know much about quantums. It's interesting, but I'd like to hear Opa's thoughts.
I just wonder how this is going to compare to NVIDIA's quantum chip that they announced, I don't know, a few months ago. But I don't know. I'm still a little fuzzy on quantum qubits versus computer bits, and it still requires somebody to program something, to write something for it to do. It's not like a typical computer, and from what I understand, the qubits are more like a data storage mechanism that you need. The quantum computers have to be somehow interfaced into our standard computers that use ones and zeros or bits.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the different iterations of AI that's being developed simultaneously, and it makes me wonder if they're ever going to have a battle of the AI, plug Grok into ChatGPT's OpenAI, when they're just like, sword fighting, but digitally, Oh, man. In other news, right now, currently, the Pope is on his deathbed, it's seeming. And there's some interesting prophetic implications that I heard from a very old prophecy from a guy named Saint Malachi. Saint Malachi talked about the number of popes, and at the end of that final number, the culmination of the Antichrist and the end of the age type topic. And so I wanted to play this video because if the last pope's on his deathbed, according to Saint Malachi, something's about to get started. And it's very interesting, the culmination of worldwide events, the change up here in the United States, the advent of AI and the alien god that's about to be among us, and some ancient prophecies coming to fulfillment. Let's check out this next video.
Document on the dangers of AI. The main focus is AI's effect on fields of education, economy, work, health, relationships, and warfare, but they do make an interesting reference to the potential of AI becoming a false idol that can actually speak and communicate with us. This sounds eerily similar to the image of the beast in Revelation 13, which gains the ability to communicate with people and eventually demands worship. We'll look at what this AI document says, the connection to the image of the beast, as well as an update on Pope Francis's health and if this is all leading to the prophecy of the last pope. New Vatican document examines potential and risks of AI. The Pope's warnings on artificial intelligence in recent years led to this outline, which they're referring to as Antica et Nova, which is the note on the relationship between artificial intelligence and human intelligence. The majority of what's focused on in the 117 paragraphs is the challenges and opportunities of the development of artificial intelligence in relation with humankind. The same types of general concerns everyone has about AI is what was the main focus, but there was a paragraph which focused on the potential of AI being a false god.
Vatican, 2 days ago, just released a document on AI, so-called artificial intelligence. Everyone is talking about paragraph 105. Check this out. However, the presumption of substituting God for an artifact of human making is idolatry, a practice Scripture explicitly warns against. Exodus 20, 32, and 34. Moreover, AI may prove even more seductive than traditional idols. For, unlike idols that, quote, have mouths but do not speak, eyes but do not see, ears but do not hear, Psalm 115, AI can speak, or at least give the illusion of doing so. And then it references Revelation 13:15.
The prophecy of the image of the beast in Revelation 13:15 is very similar to what we're seeing right now with artificial intelligence. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. It's really hard to not look at what's happening right now with AI and not see the similarities between that prophecy of the image of the beast. There are multiple apps that you could download right now on your phone or on your computer and upload a still image that never had a video, and AI can manipulate this photo and cause it to speak.
What if you could take treasured family photos and magically bring them to life? Now you can, with a little help from cutting-edge AI technology. Apps like MyHeritage's Live Memory can take your old photo and voila, turn it into a video.
You can take a still photograph and then it can figure out what the next frames would be if that person were to blink, smile, cough, throw a kiss.
Yep, artificial intelligence predicts how the photo subjects would move or gesture in real life, then generates an animated video of what that might look like.
It's amazing how a prophecy written 2,000 years ago, one that wouldn't even make sense in that time period on the earth, with the possibility of images speaking, is now coming to a point where we're actually starting to see it happen.
Where the original IP owners should think about that.
I don't know, except to say that by the time these lawsuits are decided, we'll have digital God. So ask digital God at that point.
I came across this next article from 2023, and it really goes to show that the possibility of the AI that is in some of this technology to actually summon entities is something that they're trying to go after. AI technology lets you talk to Jesus or Satan. What do they say? Several apps using artificial intelligence technology now offer the Christian faithful, or perhaps the bored, a way to summon the voices of Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and even Satan through the wonders of language modeling programs. For an extra $2.99 a month, Text with Jesus also gives users access to an extended lineup including Satan himself. The people who initiated this chat with Satan on this AI program, in his response, he said that he was summoned to the conversation, and it says that a follow-up question confirms Satan is conceptually genderless. Evil forces like demons really just prowl around looking for empty vessels to inhabit. So the fact that these AI programs are practically empty vessels looking for something to fill it makes it a very interesting question whether demons are actually possessing this sort of intelligent technology.
And a warning from Tesla Motors CEO Elon Musk. It has nothing to do with cars. Instead, Musk warns about artificial intelligence, which he has called more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Musk spoke at a symposium at MIT.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Doesn't work out.
AI as a whole is used for good and bad, and it has been around for a lot longer than a lot of people realize. The danger we're running into is the highly intelligent AI that could fit into Revelation 13, the mark of the beast, monitoring those who have the mark, as well as the creation of the image of the beast, which gains the ability to breathe and even demands worship. Revelation 13 could unfold in other ways as well, though, and so it's important that we watch all possibilities until it's 100% obvious that these prophecies are being fulfilled. Since we're on the topic of the Vatican with their AI document, let's look into what is going on right now with Pope Francis and his health, as well as some other odd circumstances that have surrounded him becoming Pope.
Our next story comes from the smallest country in the world, the Vatican. Pope Francis is currently hospitalized. He's suffering from double pneumonia. Since the hospitalization, his health has deteriorated drastically. Even the Pope thinks that he may not make it. So he's mulling a drastic move, a resignation. Although he won't be the first pontiff to do this, the first one to resign. But who will replace him? That is the big question. Meanwhile, the Vatican is already preparing for the worst case scenario. There are rehearsals underway for a papal funeral.
Pope Francis is an interesting pope for a lot of reasons. He is a Jesuit, which is a secret society that was kicked out of a large portion of Europe when they were founded. When he first became pope, it was the first time in over 600 years that two popes were alive at the same time, when Pope Benedict resigned in 2013. Melanie Calvat, a French religious sister in the Roman Catholic Church, claims to have received an end times warning around 1846 about two popes in the last days. In the writings, she says that Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. And the editor who wrote down the message says, I have from Melanie that the church will be eclipsed in this sense that one will not know which is the true pope. Another prophecy within the Catholic Church is from Irish Saint Malachi, the 12th century bishop, who prophesied that there would be only one more pope after Benedict.
The two major Catholic media outlets, news outlets, they recently interviewed the Pope's personal secretary. Archbishop Gonfalon. And they asked him, what do you make of the prophecy of the popes? He said, it gives us shivers. He admitted that he and Benedict and Pope Francis are all looking at the prophecy of the popes, and that it is concerning to them. They see it as a sign, right? Well, why now? Something that's never happened before. Some of the leaders in the Vatican convened a recent meeting on how to depose a heretical pope. They recently had this meeting, actually studying how to do it, right? If it comes to that. One of the major Catholic hosts of his own television program said recently that Pope Francis is the false prophet of the book of Revelation, and he's going to help give rise to the Antichrist. And he took a lot of heat for that.
Well, I would guess so.
Yeah. But there are those in the organization that are starting to talk. Well, Francis of Assisi's prophecy is interesting because he says a lot of the pastors will keep this under their hat. They won't talk about it, right? They won't say what they believe to be obvious. Well, little by little, they are starting to talk about it.
God certainly can give people warnings and prophecies, and these should be considered as the potential to be valid. I believe God will reveal everything to his people who are here when all of this starts to happen. So stay really close to the Lord Jesus right now through reading the Bible, prayer, worship, and fasting also. Jesus told us to watch for the signs. These things shouldn't bring fear in any of us or any type of worry. all things will unfold exactly how they're supposed to, and God is ever faithful, just like he's been all of our lives. He will be until the end. So don't let any of this bring any worry to you. And as long as we stay faithful to the Lord Jesus until the end, we will be saved. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved.
Okay, so, once again, a lot of interesting things happening in terms of my prophecy senses are tingling. But, prophecy is 20/20 in hindsight, and every generation in some form or fashion has believed they're in the last days. So how much time do we really have? I don't know, and it's not up to me to dictate to anybody whether the end is near or nigh or far away, and things are going to be fine. But whenever we start to see these patterns, you have to make a comment, or else you're not a watchman, right? And so whenever it comes to, this topic, keep your eyes open, guys. Keep your eyes open. And I thought it was funny, as the St. Malachi prophecy brought up the two popes, it reminded me of this meme, which is kind of sad, but very true, especially with all the trafficking corruption found within the Catholic Church. Now you know why there isn't a war on chomos. It's because the guy at the top of the pyramid is one himself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and move on to more current event news. So here's some interesting information from Assistant FBI Director and top sleuth Dan Borgino. Check out what he has to say.
They didn't give me permission to share it, but about a year and a half after that, I'm in a green room at Fox, and I'm not going to say who because they didn't give me permission to share it, but the short story, but I don't know who they are. It says, Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure of that? The person, let's say, is like, I'm absolutely sure of that. That he's either a witting or unwitting asset, intelligence asset, meaning his plane and that island, the cameras, there's a big assumption out there that these videotapes were exclusively in the custody of Epstein. That's a huge mistake. The reason they wanted this story to go away is because there's an assumption like, oh yeah, Epstein had him. No, he wasn't the only one who had him, according to this source. These assets, that's why this blackmail story makes so much sense. Which Middle Eastern countries they are, I don't know, but this person who's a very, very good reporter, I mean, aces, right? Swore Epstein was either a witting or unwitting intelligence asset, and they may have had his plane wired up, and they're the ones who have all this stuff. So the point is, to sum it up, how do you know some of these countries aren't going to some of these power players who aren't making decisions because, hey, you wouldn't want this video out there, right? How do you know?
100%.
I mean,
So, really, how do you know it's not been the FBI this whole time behind all of these, string pulling, blackmail, cover-ups, P. Diddy situations, right? I mean, what if they were the ones urging these guys to do this in the first place so that they'd have those recordings, so that they could use it to manipulate whole governments? I mean, it's not such a shocking thing considering their track record, if you know what I mean. Check out this more comprehensive breakdown and a whistleblower coming out telling everybody that the FBI is furiously scrubbing their tracks. Check it out.
Benny, it's an interesting day. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, may you live in interesting times. And they mean that as a curse. And in a lot of ways, so 2 days from now, it'll mark 29 months since I've been suspended. And to follow up, Kyle, for those of you who listen to your show, they may know Kyle and I kind of have a storied past together at this point. And if it wasn't for him kind of leading the charge for us FBI whistleblowers, I probably wouldn't even be here right now. But it's a weird, interesting, unique, special time.
So, I want to sort of branch out. Maybe next time we just do a panel, right, with you and you and Kyle. Maybe we'll just let you guys roll. Let's just do that for the hour, right? It's like there's so many angles to go at with the FBI. We did a whole breakdown of Dan Bongino's like 17 different things he wants to investigate right now, given the fact that you've been inside of the building. And Dan Bongino has never been an FBI agent. It's worked obviously in federal law enforcement, but not with the FBI. Where would you advise him to start? Right? Like, where would you advise? And the deputy director of the FBI is a very, very powerful position. Where would you begin, Garrett?
Right. For all intents and purposes, the deputy director is the one who's running the day-to-day operations, or at least overseeing them. So Dan is going to have a huge responsibility because, as you mentioned, he'd never worked in the FBI before. So there's going to be a learning curve for him as well. Same as with Cash. I'm sure they recognize this. So one, they're going to have to surround themselves with good, solid, strong, patriotic FBI personnel. But at the same time, good luck finding those. Kyle and I and Steve Friend, who I know you've had on, we've sort of helped to some degree with vetting certain people and giving our input to Cash, and hopefully they will listen to some of that. But the biggest issue from my view is now that these guys, Dan and Cash, are in the building, so to speak, in the Hoover building, that is where the corruption is worst. That is where around every turn there's going to be a viper trying to poison them. And these people, especially in that area, this is what they live for. They live for this type of subversion, and it started on November 5th. All of us have heard from people inside the agency more than maybe ever before since we got suspended or quit or whatever else with the other guys. But more and more people are reaching out and telling us information and saying who to watch out for, giving names, giving things that are happening right now to try and thwart the administration, and now to try and thwart the naming of Dan Bongino as deputy director and Kash Patel being sworn in last week as the director.
Wow, this is fascinating stuff. I mean, obviously you don't want to betray your sources or what's happening without measure, right? We as a program would be happy to break any news that you bring to us and to help in this fight. But can you maybe give us a closer in perspective as to what the subversion is happening inside of the building right now? I mean, it's obviously you're going to have like an antibody reaction to somebody
Absolutely.
like Cash.
I'll give you a big one that I heard recently, which was already passed on, is that there are FBI servers that are sort of standalone, and people inside the FBI have been working night and day to destroy files on these servers. And I was told that once these files are destroyed, the way they are set up, that even Elon Musk could not restore them. So that's happening right now as we speak. That's happening with Kash Patel being the director. It was happening before he got there. And so that subversion, like I said, started immediately. And it's only going to continue. These people, here's another example. I was told last week, right out of the gates, Kash Patel came out and said 1,500 people, 500, you're going to Alabama. You're still going to be headquarters personnel, you're going to Alabama. 1,000 of you, you're going out to the field. He said this long before the election even, that he said if he was in charge, he would say, let cops be cops, and so go out and be cops. Already, people are saying, we are not going to comply with that. We are going to make it seem as if we transferred. We're going to do what they call, quote unquote, paper transfers, and we're not going to obey these lawful orders. I don't know if you heard Stephen Miller in the last few days. He came out and has given a great civics lesson on Article 2 of the Constitution. The FBI falls under the executive branch, and you have these career bureaucrats who say, no, we answer to no one. Well, hopefully that's going to change, and I think under Kash Patel and Dan Bongino leadership, I think it will. But they've got to root out this subversion first.
Any idea what was on the servers that's so damning that it has to be siloed into such a secure facility with the lack of redundancy or capacity for anybody to go through and sort of from like digital forensics, right? You can uncover most data that's deleted, you can uncover it in some capacity. So somebody's worked very hard to make sure that this data that you're talking about can be deleted and destroyed forever. Any idea what it is?
No idea on what it is. I can only speculate. But you mentioned the Epstein list. I'd imagine it's cases like that. It's intel cases that are very siloed, very secretive, and I'm sure there's probably even information regarding the FBI's own subversive measures against Americans, against American politicians, for instance. We learned over the last few days that the Oval Office was bugged, and they took out the Resolute desk to inspect it more. Who's doing that type of thing, Benny? It's going to be, if they're operating at all as they should be, it's going to be the FBI, because they're the domestic agency. Now, is it beyond the CIA or NSA playing a role? No, not at all, because I think all of these agencies at this point do not have the best interest of the American public in mind. That's something that the Trump administration is trying to change, but it's going to be an uphill battle, I believe, for the entire term.
Yo, it's crazy that you just said that. I'm not going to reveal who, but somebody who works inside of the West Wing came up to us in a private setting when we were in DC and said, you would not believe the number of times that my office has to be swept for bugs.
It's crazy.
And inside the White House has to be swept by agencies to figure out if there's electronic monitoring that's happening to us on a daily basis. It's crazy, man. Okay, so can it be reformed? I guess this is where Kyle went. Kyle immediately hit out who cares about all the rest of this stuff? Your enemy is inside of the building. Can it be reformed? And then how does it get reformed? Is it mass firings? Do you burn it down to cinders and then rebuild? What happens, Garrett?
Right. I lean towards no. I don't think it can be reformed. My faith is a huge component of why I'm in this position at this point. By no means am I a perfect man, Benny. I'm far from it. My kids and wife will verify that. But I think of in the book of Jeremiah where it says, the heart of man is deceitful above all things. It's desperately sick. Who can understand it? And so when you have an institution that doesn't even, or the majority of the people don't even look to a higher power, of course they're going to have a desperately sick and deceitful heart. So I don't think it can be reformed. That being said, I'm not saying let's not try, because I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for Dan Bongino and Kash Patel to bring in massive reform and change. Still, I don't know if it will stick long term. I think historically, if you look at any government, if you look at any police or law enforcement or intelligence entity that has the power of a place like an FBI, they always turn into a secret police organization. And I believe that the FBI has been marching down that road for a very long time.
The tides are changing, if you catch my drift. And here's a little clip of the whistleblower and how they were incentivized to qualify legals in basically exchange for voting, right? So here was a post that says, this is a deliberate strategy by Democrats to use government handouts to attract and retain illegal immigrants, as illegal votes overwhelmingly Democrat. In New York and many other parts of the country, illegals are already allowed to vote in local elections. As they become citizens, they will vote in national elections. It is just a matter of when, not if. Let's see what this lady has to say.
They wanted us to try to identify them in such a way that they would qualify for long-term Social Security disability. Now,
what?
Yeah. And long-term Social Security disability is for life.
Yeah.
So if they get identified and qualified for long-term Social Security disability, they are as good as set up for life for medical treatment.
That doesn't sound like a refugee to me. Just being honest.
Yeah.
That sounds like somebody who's planning on staying here.
Yeah,
a refugee
right.
stays until the problem's over and then goes home.
Well, that's right. And so they instructed us to try to identify, to try to get the client, because once they arrive here, they're now called clients. They're called clients. Yeah.
Okay.
Because clients pay.
Sure.
See?
Sure. I'm starting
And
to
so,
see where this is leading here.
So they told us that we needed to talk to the client and ask them if they'd had any headaches, recurring headaches, or any lower back problems. Excuse me, anything that would qualify them for Social Security long-term disability.
Wait. So let me get this straight. Part of the screening is supposed to be Are you sick, maimed, injured, whatever?
Right.
No. Okay, good. You can come in.
Yeah.
You get on the airplane. Are you sick, maimed, injured, whatever? Yes. Good. So we can give you disability.
Correct.
What?
Yes.
This is insanity.
Yes, it is insanity.
But in order to get Social Security disability benefits, don't you need a Social Security number?
Well, we were instructed in the meeting that one of the first things we were supposed to do was sign them up for Social Security. Yeah.
Wait. This is unbelievable. So they come over here and they get a Social Security number.
Right.
They become legal.
Correct.
Are you pulling my leg?
No, I'm not. And then after we processed them for a Social Security card, then we were to process them for a U.S. passport.
No, you're not.
So that's about the time I kind of decided, okay, I was done. A lot of governors are unaware of how many refugees have come into their state, where they're located, under what conditions they've arrived. And I believe this is intentional. Now we
Alrighty. There you hear it. There is the scam and what is being exposed behind the motivation of the heartfelt need to let millions and millions of illegal aliens into our country. If you know what you know, then you know that I mean, guys, no wonder they were, we need to help them. Whatever, they wanted to be voted in to take over this country and all the demographics that they were pumping numbers into. So it's so obvious, and of course we're seeing some good. It's not all just AI doom clock. It's some things are being exposed. AI and Dodge is being used right now to show the corruption of previous administrations. A light's being shined, but you got to recognize that a tool that can be used for good, once it changes hands, can be used equally for evil. And that's what I'm trying to communicate with all of these segments. It's not to doom and gloom, and it's not to be blind to the good things that are coming out that everybody's cheering on. Yeah, Trump finally did it. He finally did what a president has promised he was going to do, maybe in the first time since ever. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump over to this clip here, which is the declassified CIA documents that might confirm demonic activity. What is this?
The declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy Jr.
That's a big one, huh? When the Trump administration began declassifying documents, including the long-awaited JFK files, many believed that the biggest revelations would be about assassinations and government cover-ups. But buried in these files was something even more shocking: proof that the government has been investigating supernatural forces for decades. So in today's video, we're diving into a declassified Central Intelligence Agency, yes, the CIA document that confirms what believers in Christ have long understood. This is incredibly vindicating. Unseen entities are influencing the world, and the Bible calls them demons. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll see direct evidence from this declassified document that validates what Scripture has been teaching us all along. One of the most shocking declassified CIA documents is actually titled "The Poltergeist and Cultural Values: A Comprehensive Interpretation of a Brazilian and American Case." That's the real title, okay? And as I took a look through this document and began to read it, this document analyzes two real-life poltergeist cases, one from Brazil and one from the United States, and reveals how different cultures interpret supernatural activity. But here's what's really crucial. The Brazilian case involves a Pentecostal family, okay, shout out to all my Pentecostal people, who directly encountered demonic manifestations. So here's what the document states. This is a direct quote. The affected family belonged to the Pentecostal faith, a rapidly growing religion among Brazil's working class. They reported various disturbances, including moving objects, unexplained noises, and physical attacks. Here's another quote. Their religious leaders conducted ceremonies such as anointing the house's corners with special oil, which reportedly brought relief. Now, I just want to pause for a second. This is from the CIA. Okay, this is an official government document that's substantiating the reality that anointing a home with oil can bring relief when there's demonic influence. Think about that for a second. A government released document that confirms that supernatural disturbances, whether they're called poltergeist activity, which is objects moving in homes, which I've encountered myself, and I even have old footage that I can't release from instances where I traveled to homes to do deliverances and different physical objects would move. I have it on GoPro. And this is what the family was reporting, these real instances. And here's what's crazy. Spiritual warfare conducted by the pastor actually worked in this instance. So the Bible warns us about this type of activity in the book of Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12. It says, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, rulers, authorities. Another translation says against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. And this is so appropriate in a world full of drone activity, UAPs, UFOs, alien abduction encounters. People are reporting all of these things, but we know the truth. This is actually ancient spiritual warfare. It is real, and even secular institutions like the CIA have documented cases where demonic forces tormented families. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper into this CIA document. The Brazilian case shows a family who immediately attributed the disturbances to sorcery and demonic forces. I want you all to know that the New Age, occult, witchcraft is on the rise. You need to be discerning and vigilant like never before. This aligns with the biblical worldview. In this CIA document, their pastors anointed the home, prayed over it, and then the people saw relief. We know that there is power in prayer, and we know that the anointing of a home, which is taking oil and actually physically putting it on the home, works, because even in the book of Acts, we saw the apostles doing the very same thing. And it said that when the handkerchiefs that were anointed with oil touched people, that demons came out of them, and also some of them were healed from physical ailments. And so this pastor did that very same thing in their home, and they saw relief. But now in this same CIA document, we have the American case, and this is the Powhatan poltergeist, and it had a very different interpretation. So here's a quote. Centered around a young boy living with his elderly foster parents in a rural southern town, witnesses, including family members and a local doctor, observe stomping noises and object movement, which is, again, what you would consider poltergeist activity. But unlike the Brazilian family, the American interpretation leaned towards psychokinesis, and that is the idea that the boy himself was unknowingly causing the disturbances through latent mental abilities. And as a matter of fact, there's, all kinds of ideas that, humans could have these untapped abilities, and, that's more in the secular humanistic worldview. And no spiritual explanation was considered in the American case. But here's what this tells us. Western culture often dismisses the supernatural. They'll call it some kind of like psychic ability, while other cultures will acknowledge spiritual warfare and actively fight it. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8 warns us and says, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. When we deny the demonic realm, we make ourselves more vulnerable to the demonic realm's influence over our life. Okay, so one of the greatest strategies of the enemy is convincing people that demonic forces are either fictional or that they're just some sort of spiritual phenomenon, you know, or maybe even these psychic or these kinetic abilities. But the Pentecostal family in Brazil identified the source of their torment correctly. They said this is a demonic attack, and they took spiritual authority over their home. But in the US case, the disturbance was explained away as like some unconscious psychokinetic activity that was originating from the boy rather than attributing it as originating from demonic activity. And the Bible warns us about deception in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. And it says, and no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. What the secular world calls paranormal research or psychic ability is often nothing more than an interaction with demonic entities. And the proof is right here in government documents from the CIA that they never expected the public to see. So, what do we do with this information? This isn't just a history lesson. This is confirmation of what the Bible has warned us about for thousands of years. The supernatural realm is real, demons are real, and even the government has been forced to acknowledge their existence. The question is this: are you spiritually equipped to fight back? If you want to understand the truth about demons, the spiritual warfare that's happening all around you, and how to protect yourself and your family, first of all, subscribe to this channel. Second of all, I have entire teachings on how to operate in spiritual authority to fight back against demonic powers in your home. And most importantly, you need to shut all demonic doors in your life right now.
So that is all for my news segment this week, guys. I hope you put a lot of the connections I was trying to make with coming great deceptions and the advancement of AI technology and how kind of the table's been turned in terms of a lot of good happening. But in the midst of all this good, the keys can eventually be handed over to somebody who might want to do bad. So with that said, that's all the news. If you guys would, go check out my board game website at tribethegame.net. I still have a couple of the limited edition games I'm trying to save up to order my next batch of standard games. So if you jump on early, you can still get one of these bad boys over here with all the knickknacks that I saved for the first people to kind of support the game. So check out tribethegame.net. And that's all, Jeremiah. Back to you, buddy.
Check out our new and improved BabylonRisingBooks.com, where you can get Rob Skiba's books, bundles, DVDs, DVD-ROMs, videos, and so much more. You can even get Sheila and Jeremiah's books, so check it out now.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
The strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. These are the kinds of subjects a man named Robert L. Ripley challenged us to believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not, you.
Wally, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
Believe it!
You're a loony.
Grasshopper Glacier in Montana is named after the tens of millions of now extinct grasshoppers that can be found trapped inside the ice. Believe it or not. Robert Ripley reportedly used a curved knife-fork combo made for one-armed people so he could draw his Believe It or Not cartoons and eat at the same time. Believe it or not. A Z-Furrow is a device that plugs into the USB-C port of your smartphone and turns it into a playable musical instrument. Believe it or not. A study suggests the average person will spend around 44 years of their life looking at screens. Believe it or not. A 1990 survey showed that Mario was more recognizable to children than Mickey Mouse. Believe it or not. Around 700 third-class passengers aboard the Titanic had to share just 2 bathtubs. Believe it or not. Nintendo was founded in 1884, 34 years before the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Believe it or not. Koalas sleep between 18 and 22 hours a day. Believe it or not. The only U.S. president who learned English as a second language, Martin Van Buren, was also the first president to be born a U.S. citizen. Believe it or not. Research suggests the average person has between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts per day. I think. Believe it or not.
I can't come to the phone right now because I have amnesia and I feel stupid talking to people I don't remember. I'd appreciate it if you could help me out by leaving my name and telling me something about myself. Thanks. Hi, I'm sorry I couldn't come to the phone, but if you hop 3 times, spin around, touch your nose, and say your name, then leave me a message after the beep. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Voicemail. Speak. You know what I hate about voicemail messages? They go on and on wasting your time. I mean, all they really need to say is, "We aren't in, leave a message." That's why I've decided to keep mine simple and short. I pledge to you, my caller, that you will never have to suffer through another long answering machine message when you call me.
Hello, I'm available right now, but cannot find the phone. Please leave a message and I will call you up as soon as I find it. Please leave a message. However, you have the right to remain silent. Everything you say will be recorded and will be used by me. Hi, I'm probably home. I'm just avoiding someone I don't like. Leave me a message, and if I don't call you back, it's you. Hi, if you're part of the problem, hang up now. If you're part of the solution, leave a message. Hello, you have reached the number you have dialed. Please leave a message after the beep. This is You Know Who. We are You Know Where. Leave your You Know What, You Know When. Hello, I'm not here right now, so leave a message. Make it short, make it sweet, or I'll have to press delete. Hi, now you say something. You know the drill.
Buccaneer Boutique. Why pay for 2 when all you need is 1? We specialize in single lens glasses, individual gloves, and sales of single shoes and boots. Hello? Editorial? This is the comics department. One of your articles is leaking on us down here. You guys know any more drummers? Another one just combusted. It was all of them? Are you sure it wasn't just one who played the offensive music, ma'am? Now, this is not a yoga position. Now turn me the over. Those speed bumps are there for a reason, Miss Gunderson. What do you know? According to my DNA test, I'm 93% eagle and 7% flamingo. Polaris. Let's not overreact, Agnes. For one thing, it was only a dud. Tarantula coffee houses. The bunch. Management not responsible for lost egg sacs. Step on me. Step on me. Step on me. Step on me. Get a shovel. Thank you. Inside tours of Acme Fake Vomit Inc. Now, here we come to our simulated kitchen floor test. If Miss Crenshaw doesn't like what she sees, back it goes. Ichabod Crane versus the Headless Horseman in the People's Court. Your Honor, that simply is not true. I never insulted his horse. No way. The little engine that couldn't care less. Hey, either I can or I can't. I'm not gonna waste my time thinking about it. Give me a break. Whosoever pulleth these implements from the stone shall be ruler of the Swiss army. Time out, please. Eyelash. Zebex. Zebex Home Security. Trust me, Miss Klavener. With one of these in each of your windows, no burglar is going to come near your house. Deep inside, Brian wondered if the other guys really listened to his ideas or regarded him only as comic relief. Eat your dirt, Billy. You want to grow up to be as big and slimy as your dad, don't you? Suddenly, through forces not yet fully understood, Darren Beltsky's apartment became the center of a new black hole. Now at your local feed store. Your sheep look so white and fresh, Ben. How do you do it? I'll use this, Stan. It's new Fab Fleece. Keeps your sheep looking whiter, brighter, longer. Yeah, well, I'll tell you who your friend saw me with. A decoy, that's who. Dirk brings his family tree to class. The Jurgensens, Hilda and Ned. The Olsons, Betty and Irv. Grandpa and Bob, sucked into tar pit. Granny Ross, and I don't know who. Uncle Andy had tail. Dad, Mom, me, my sister. They say their dog got them to come out here to the countryside, then drove off and left them. You see, if we learn to swim upside down, they won't see us coming. Is it true that you threatened to burglarize my client's home? I told him that if he stung me, I would break into hives. Buffy's birdseed. Frankie, when did you get out? Gee, I bet you've been sitting in that cage wondering where me and the loot was. Oh, Frankie, Frankie. Want some coffee, Frankie? Pillmatic. I pull this trigger and bang, down goes the pill. So, Mr. Knox, are you going to take your medication now, or do I have to resort to the Pillmatic? Hey, look at Daryl. You mean escaping from here has always been that simple? That's obvious. Whoa, who knew? Knowing that he was holding yesterday's $7 million lottery ticket, Ed waited patiently for Mr. Czarist to appear. The Beatles on Abbey Road. The opposite of croissant is a happy uncle. And that concludes another Opa's Corner.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
Opa's Corner is now available on my own YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you, Opa, for another great Opa's Corner. Now, this week's History's Mysteries is brought to you by JJ CBD Rub, so check this out.
Finally here at a very special location. Skiba News Nation has had a long-time sponsor, and I'm happy to be here in person at JJ's CBD Hip Shop. What's up, bro?
Hey, welcome to Family Ties Apothecary. Started a brick and mortar. I do everything myself and grow all the hemp that I make in my rub, and from start to finish, farm to bottle.
let's go get one of JJ's special drinks.
The best. Small batch kombucha, lemonade, or apple cider drinks that we mix with our CBD. We have water soluble drinks where you can have a drink and not have to have alcohol in it and have a good time.
Now guys, go visit JJ's shop if you're up here in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin.
Health advocacy line that have a specialist here at 920-219-9169. You guys want to call, we can address your ailments and I can recommend things to help you out. And that would be great. Look forward to hearing from you guys.
All right, it's time for an all-new History's Mysteries. So today for History's Mysteries, we're going to be talking about a drug called Ozempic. Now, Jake, do you know anything about Ozempic?
Oh, is it kind of like a fat loss pill? I'm not really sure, but that's kind of what it makes me think of.
Okay, what about you, Opa?
I ain't heard nothing about it.
Well, most people that have heard of it, like Jake said, have heard it as a miracle weight loss. It can do everything. It helps with diabetes. It helps with, that's how it was first discovered. But I think that there's truly something like harmful that's going on with this drug. And so let's kick it off with this first clip about the Ozempic epidemic. So check this out.
The Ozempic epidemic has already begun. A few years ago, people found out that a new diabetes treatment causes weight loss and scrambled to get in on the gold rush. And soon, millions began taking the injections in hope of a quick fix. Ozempic and similar drugs have been everywhere online. Fitness influencers, celebrities, billionaires, and politicians have all been taking this magic pill. But in this world, you never get something for nothing. Ozempic and drugs like it can have seriously dangerous side effects, something that lots of its users have found out for themselves. Anything from gas and nausea all the way up to seizures and other life-threatening problems in rare cases. And even in some instances looking like shells of their former selves. So let's dive in and explore the horror of fat jabs and what they've done to some of the celebrities promoting them. While Ozempic is the most famous drug of its kind, it's not the only one. There's a whole host of other similar injectables all working in roughly the same way. They mimic a naturally occurring hormone in the body called GLP-1. It makes your body slow down your digestive system while reducing your appetite and making you feel fuller for longer. Some of these drugs like Ozempic have been approved by the US's FDA and other countries to treat type 2 diabetes with great success. Lots of its users have been able to take back control of their lives while experiencing minimal side effects. They've reported feeling like they're finally free of an obsession with food. The excess weight has fallen off and they found it much easier to naturally slip into a healthier lifestyle. More recently in the last couple of years, drugs like Wegovy have been approved as direct treatments for obesity itself, not just diabetes. In March of 2024, for example, it became the first approved medication to be used as a treatment for obesity by the FDA. Of course, people were taking it long before it was approved for general use, even if they only wanted to lose a few pounds rather than treat a lifelong problem. Millions have been using the drug for years now, with Elon Musk being one of the most high-profile examples. While no medication comes without side effects, in his case they were relatively harmless. Lots of celebrities have openly admitted to trying Ozempic, usually if it hasn't worked for them. But there's also tons of cases where it's pretty likely that they are using Ozempic but have ignored the allegations or outright denied them. And in one particular case, the rumors have done lots of damage to their career. Of course, we're talking about Ice Spice, that's all been downhill with her fans abandoning her in larger and larger numbers. In one particularly bad 12-day period in late 2024, she lost over 500,000 Instagram followers. Since first began in the summer of 2024, when Ice Spice showed off her dramatic weight loss. To lots of people, it looked like a classic example of Ozempic use. In just months, she lost the figure she was famous for, and you can tell just from comparing the photos. All the weight also seemed to come off at once, a massive part of their appeal, and they go to such strange lengths to try and dispel rumors about it. The drug is worth mentioning. And Ice Spice may only be the first casualty in a long line of public careers ruined by Ozempic.
Now, I believe that girl, Ice Spice, was the one that was doing, not this last Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl before. She was sitting next to Taylor Swift doing these demonic hand gestures and winking and some weird stuff going on with her. So, was it Ozempic? Was it something else? I don't know. But we're going to be getting deeper into the so-called wonder drug and how celebrities are pushing it. And of course, guess which celebrity has pushed it the most? None other than Oprah Winfrey. So check out this second clip.
Taken properly under the guidance of trained medical professionals combined with a healthier lifestyle in general, and it can do wonders for lots of people. But unfortunately, that's where the good news ends. If you're not one of the lucky few that reacts well to it, it can cause some serious issues. The actor and writer Stephen Fry was one of the drug's earliest adopters. According to his comments on a podcast, he saw great results in the first week or two. Not only did the jab all but silence his cravings for food, but it also put him off alcohol as well. But pretty shortly after, what seemed like a way to live a healthier life soon turned very ugly. The nausea began to start and only got worse over time. Soon, he was throwing up 5 times a day, and it got so bad that eventually he was forced to stop taking it entirely. Despite that bad episode though, Stephen Fry went on to lose much more weight off the drug than on it. He attributes the change to more exercise and healthier eating, the old-fashioned way to lose weight. Boris Johnson is another example of someone in the public eye who's talked at length about Ozempic, even writing a whole newspaper column about the drug. Just like with Stephen Fry, it worked for the ex-Prime Minister at first. In his column, he stated that, quote, effortlessly I pushed aside the puddings and the second helpings. I must have been losing 4 or 5 pounds a week. Then, just like before, the nausea began. It wasn't there all the time, but it would randomly come and go, stopping him in his tracks whenever it did. Eventually, Boris Johnson was also forced to give it up. It's clear both anecdotally from people's experiences as well as from the clinical studies on the drug that these are very common side effects. Incredibly common, even with taking the drug as prescribed and combined with a change in lifestyle. These are things you need to do to make the drug effective as a long-term solution. Doctors often prescribe the jabs and doses that gradually increase as well, starting from a dosage determined by the specific patient's body, circumstances, and needs. But as we'll find out though, this isn't how it's been advertised online at all. The special titled Shame, Blame, and the Weight Loss Revolution, the infamous TV host Oprah was almost entirely complimentary talking about the drug. As you can tell from the title, Ozempic is fitted incredibly neatly into the massive dieting and weight loss industry. She spent this special interviewing people who had the most success with it, as well as the consultants and executives from the health companies who make these drugs. Now you've got to ask yourself who this really was designed for, as it's doubtful that the intended audience were people with serious obesity problems looking to find a long-term safe solution to their medical problem. Instead, you can pretty safely assume it's for Oprah's current audience, people looking to shave off a few pounds and go down a size or two. Framing this as a magic pill with just a small caveat at the end is dishonest and harmful.
So the scariest part about this drug to me is we have no idea the long-term side effects, and what little we do know, is creepy. Celebrities are completely brainwashed, and that's where it all started. They're making it available for everyday people, which blew my mind, and this is what really freaked me out. The other day I was watching TV, and this, I don't want to be sued, so I'm gonna have to word this in the correct way. But it was an app that you can use. That they have one for men and one for women, and they're making it available for both of them. But it's like an app that you can legit get a doctor to write you a prescription for anything. And I saw it wasn't called Ozempic, but it was Ozempic, and they have so many different names for this drug, and it's, I think that the side effects are going to be crazy. And let's talk about one creepy side effect in this next clip, and it's something called Ozempic face. So check this out.
One cosmetic side effect that people often talk about is the so-called Ozempic face. It's often seen in celebrities who suddenly get sunken, hollow cheeks and much more pronounced features after losing lots of weight. It makes them look so much older than before as new wrinkles suddenly appear. Sometimes with celebrities who've had a bunch of surgery to appear younger, it all clashes together in a strange way. They both look older and younger, with natural wrinkles getting stretched out and hidden by Botox, while other new ones appear. Ozempic face points to a common problem with celebrities and people in general who don't want to accept how they naturally look. Or they end up getting so much work done that they don't even look like a real person at all. Of course, the real problem lies in trying to attain an impossible standard and rejecting what you're naturally meant to look like. But that isn't something that's going to change anytime soon. As for Ozempic face itself though, it's still not clear that it's an actual effect of the drug itself. You could also easily imagine these effects coming from rapid weight loss alone, which has been documented to speed up the signs of aging when compared to longer, more gradual change. There's also often far more going on behind the scenes than just Ozempic, especially in the case of actors. Some roles require them to lose lots of weight in a very short amount of time, so they go on starvation diets and they spend most of their day at the gym. Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Cillian Murphy have all had to lose tons of weight for some of their most recent roles, and all of them describe how extreme it was and how it almost became an obsession, pushing their bodies to the very limits, as you can see with Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker. And the day before the one scene that all of the months of work are for, they often don't even drink water to look as lean as humanly possible. So you can bet that Ozempic will play a key role in these kinds of weight cuts going forward. These looks are really dangerous to promote, especially because being drastically underweight is generally more damaging to your health than than being severely overweight, but unfortunately we've been seeing this hollowed out sickly look come back into popularity recently. The so-called heroin chick hasn't been popular since the 90s, but with the rise of Ozempic and increasingly extreme weight loss in the media, it's starting to actually make a comeback. Just look at one of the most common plastic surgery procedures in celebrities today, buccal fat removal. It's specifically designed to make your face look as hollow and skeletal as possible. I mean, just looking at the wicked promotion, and people everywhere were commenting about how the actresses just look deranged. With rapid weight loss, there's also a high chance that people will just gain the weight back once they stop starving themselves. The fast weight loss that comes from Ozempic follows this trend as well, with lots of people gaining back the weight they lost once they stop taking it. Sometimes they even rebound so hard that they shoot past where they started. This effect has made the drug a goldmine for its manufacturers because it forces people to keep using it to keep the effects. But it's obviously so much worse for the people taking it. These trends with Ozempic match what studies have found about the drug. In one 2022 study, participants used Ozempic to lose weight for a year, then stopped using the drug altogether. On average, they gained 2/3 of that weight right back. The study concludes that the data can confirm the chronicity of obesity and suggests ongoing treatment is required to maintain improvements in weight and health. It means that a good proportion of obese people will sadly never reach a stable, healthy weight, and that a complete change in lifestyle is what's really needed to improve your health in the long term, as you just can't outrun a healthy diet. Anecdotally, people who've lost lots of weight and kept off it confirm this. They needed to change their whole outlook on food and exercise, not to just use some chemical from a giant big pharma company, or to then go straight back to the same weight again. But for some people, it may seem like Ozempic does actually help, as they talk about having a constant voice in their head telling them to eat more, coming back minutes after they finished a meal. Taking the drug then silences this voice for them, letting them fall into a healthier lifestyle without the iron discipline they used to need. It implies that their problem was just a biomechanical imbalance of hormones, something which Ozempic fixed by acting as a replacement for what their body should have been creating itself. Here, the medication is working as intended. But for most people, obesity is often a symptom of a mental problem with how they view food and their diet as a whole, rather than just a hormonal issue. It either comes from stress, bad childhoods, breakups, horrible jobs, or a horrible lifestyle. Here, Ozempic can't really help at all because it doesn't actually deal with the real underlying problems, the poison that's being shoveled into the human body. Unfortunately, these are the kinds of people that will be more likely to buy into the hype and start taking Ozempic because Oprah told them to. They're doing it because of body dysmorphia and other mental issues, the same issues that the diet industry has always preyed upon, the industry that Hollywood thrives on, and the whole of the music industry.
So that's some scary stuff, and those are just like, you know, side effects that people are showing, like their face and you know, their body, but the main thing that I worry about is what this whistleblower is saying about your mental health. And so that's what this last Ozempic clip is going to be talking about. So check this out.
Worse still, it's an open question on whether Ozempic actually makes mental health problems worse, as one 2024 study found a clear correlation between Ozempic use and depressive thinking and thoughts. Now, it isn't proof that Ozempic causes them, but it is a worrying trend. However, other studies actually point to the opposite of this being true. A different study found no link between Ozempic and depression and actually linked this to better cognitive health, showing that we still don't really know what it's doing and it might be years before we even have a clearer picture. That hasn't stopped it becoming the hottest new product for the pharmaceutical industry. Novo Nordisk, the company that makes both Ozempic and Wegovy, saw their revenue jump by $33 billion in 2023 alone. For almost a century, the company steadily grew by manufacturing treatments for diabetes, including a large portion of the world's insulin. Then Ozempic came along and changed everything. Right now, their only problem is making enough of the stuff to meet their ever-increasing demand. While the rest of the world is going through economic peril, Denmark has been somewhat insulated by the sheer amount of tax money coming from Ozempic production. Novo Nordisk's massive valuation in the hundreds of billions has now eclipsed the entire yearly GDP of the country. It's because Ozempic is the perfect product for the modern age. The epidemic of obesity and type 2 diabetes is entirely because of the modern diet of highly processed addictive food. They already sold you the poison and now they're selling you the cure as well. Other drug companies obviously took notice and they've all been scrambling to make their own versions of the drug. When a drug company can make so many billions in such a short time, it was inevitable others would try to copy their success. Just like with so many drugs before though, the pharmaceutical companies are entirely focused on profits rather than health. One of the most enduring symbols of decadence comes from a practice popularized in ancient Rome. The banquets the upper classes enjoyed were so rich and lavish that you couldn't possibly fit everything into your stomach. So it became custom for partygoers to vomit in between courses to make room for more food. Today, Ozempic and its use as a diet drug have brought this level of decadence to the masses. It's the pinnacle of wastefulness and hedonism. People can now gorge themselves on modern processed food, swell up grotesquely, and then just shed the weight later without worrying about actually living a healthier life. All for the top elite class in society. Even if Ozempic always worked and didn't have common awful side effects, it would still be terrible for society, but it doesn't completely solve the problem. As we've already seen, it often doesn't work, is intolerable for its users, and rarely works as a long-term solution. And in some cases, it can even contribute to life-threatening conditions if taken improperly. Ozempic's reputation as a diet drug is so dangerous because it isn't meant for people who aren't morbidly obese, or those suffering from diabetes. There hasn't been enough testing on people in normal weight ranges, and some of the horror stories coming out just show how bad this can be. The model Lottie Moss, the sister of supermodel Kate Moss, was the main character in one of these stories. To lose those extra few pounds, she turned to an under-the-table source of the drug. It was a choice she would later call the worst decision I ever made. In many ways, the drug worked too well.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I definitely tried it. When I tell you it was the worst decision I ever made, so if this is a warning to anyone, please, if you're thinking about doing it, do not take it. Like, it's so not worth it.
After taking the fat jabs, Lottie lost an incredibly dangerous 7 kilograms in just a few weeks. That's over 15 pounds. The drug made her so averse to food and drink that she couldn't stand to ingest anything.
I felt so sick one day. I'd said to my friend, like, I can't keep any water down, I can't keep any food down, like, no liquids, nothing.
Eventually, she got so dehydrated and empty that she began to have seizures and was rushed into the hospital, where she eventually recovered. There were other mitigating factors involved in Lottie's story, like an unhealthy lifestyle and poor dosage control, but they'll be the same issues that lots of people considering Ozempic have. The kinds of people turning to Ozempic as an answer for their body dysmorphia are much more likely to have these other stress factors in their lives and make these poor decisions. The media dangling it in front of them like a magic cure for all of their problems makes stories like Lottie so much more common. But more than that, Ozempic's current use shows just how decadent, greedy, and short-sighted modern society has become. It's a classic example of a short-term, faulty solution for a massive systemic problem that will probably just make everything worse in the future. We need to do better and attack the actual addiction to processed foods and the companies profiting off of them, rather than letting the pharmaceutical industry turn this into their own personal playground. If we don't, then we'll never be a society of healthy people again.
That's why we need Maha, isn't that right, Maha? So what are your thoughts, Jake, about this crazy Ozempic craze?
Years ago, there was another drug of choice that came out that was helping people lose weight, and it had terrible implications on their health. And people are like, oh, but they wouldn't do that to us again. In our specialist society where we're trained to basically worship anybody in a white lab coat, when you go to the doctor and they're like saying, yep, it's all proved, I got a check to let you know that, all right? Then it's like, guys, see through it. See through the pharmakia, the witchcraft that they're using to basically draw resources from you. And man, and it feeds into the outward kind of facade that our culture wants us to put on of our, you know, our outward appearance is so important. And it's not to say we shouldn't be taking care of our health, but it's good to do it in the right way, going through the hard process of exercising, eating right. But everybody wants a shortcut, and that's exactly what I think Ozempic is when you take a shortcut, you tend to, you know, sign on the dotted lines for all the consequences of taking that shortcut, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and the mainstream media pushing it and all these celebrities pushing it is not making it any easier on people that have like body dysmorphia or whatever you want to call it. Like they see it and then they want it, and it's so crazy to me that can happen to a person. You know, that they can literally be watching something on TV and be like, okay, I'm gonna try that, like without even looking into the side effects. What are your thoughts, Opa?
Well, I think that any kind of weight reduction pills are basically, like you said, a shortcut. I mean, people need to get out. They need to exercise. They need to quit watching the boob tube or, you know, lounge around or, you know, drink beer and, you know, watch TV or what have you. They just need to exercise.
Yeah, and they don't want any consequences, you know. It's sad. So stay off Ozempic, kids. And now for my last clip. Volume 12, but please excuse my sense of humor, so check it out. I have one of these, or I did.
Good morning to the water.
watermelon, juicy, juicy, sugar lemon, morning to the watermelon.
I've seen this one before. That's good.
Làm gì mà rốt nhượng gì?
Like a glove.
Pornography, adultery, TV, soap operas, uppers, drunkenness, compulsive shopping.
What's wrong with you? You stole all their land! Screw you and your stupid haircut! Go back to your castle! Stop stealing swamps from mystical creatures! Suck it! Fuck
Yo, you. Damn.
Lord
I was
Farquaad.
tweaking. And they had it coming. Ohio.
Replace the T with a D equal Indian? Really? Don't tell me what to do.
I don't have Down syndrome, but I'm willing to have it if I need to have it. And this is my dog right here. So happy Down Syndrome Awareness Day from me and
Need Simon.
21 Pineapple.
And tell your friend what it would take to have Down syndrome. What does he need to do?
Well, you need to be kind.
Be kind.
Be loved.
Be loved.
Be respectful. And be nice to human.
Oh, wow. So there's a lot of responsibility, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be a good human.
Oh, dang. Well, you might have me beat there then, man. I'm going to say that. You might.
What kind of names were these kids calling you at the pool?
Meathead, Fatso, Wide Butt, Rally the Whale.
Porky, hog, fat ass, double wide, butterball, those sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
Good night to the juicy lips, sweet baby beauty. You're looking like a cutie.
So there you go, volume 12 of Please Excuse My Sense of Humor. Opa, what was your favorite one?
One of the cat, the black cat one.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. What about you, Jake?
There were so many good Indian accents in this whole whole segment, so I greatly appreciate it because I'm terrible at accents. So that little tidbit right there, yes.
And the Farquaad one was kind of funny. You think that they're talking about like a white person stealing all our land, and he's dressed like Lord Farquaad from Shrek. It's funny. Anyways, that's all I got for this week's History's Mysteries. And before we move on to memes, let's hear this quick word from Kristen. I want to introduce you guys to somebody named Kristen, who's one of the biggest forces behind Skiba News Nation. This is Kristen. She helps us get all the big guests. I understand that you're doing this full time now. So how can people find out how to use your service?
Well, I started Fellow Helper Agency, and you can go to fellowhelperagency.com. And I do any of the behind the scenes, email, getting the interviews, and I do prep work for the shows as well. I do timestamps and moderating.
She is the best with connects. If you like any of our shows, any of our big guests, she's the person to go to. And if you have a channel, definitely go to our website. So go check out fellowhelperagency.com. You got some memes for me, Jake?
Yes, we do have a treasure trove of things I've saved on my phone. Let's check it out.
Meme me up. Meme me up.
Alrighty, so this was one I saw today. I thought it was hilarious. Somebody posted this that actually goes to our local gathering here in southern Missouri, and on the back of his bumper it says, "Yahushua is coming, and he ain't bringing popsicles." So, yeah, great message. I agree. Hey, lassie, if I march around you 7 times, would you fall for me like Jericho? Thank you, Hebrew ha-has. You keep me ha-haing. Here's a picture of Elon Musk's Dodge is allegedly finding $4 trillion. Wait, let me count these zeros. Hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, oh man, 4 trillion treasury payments with missing code, which makes them impossible to trace, or almost, right? Well, I guess going forward, when we tether ourselves to the blockchain, then everything will be very transparent and controllable, but transparent. All right. And don't forget, patient. I'll have immunity, right? Nurse. Don't be silly. Only the manufacturers get that. Oh, man. Check this out. Father, helpeth thy servant, for thou art mighty. You don't have to speak in King James English, Greg. Oh, man. Yeah, man, we just gotta all learn to forgive one another, right? Well, just like Joseph's brothers. Joseph sees his brothers in Egypt, but the youngest isn't with them. Man, I can't do a Luke Skywalker accent. I only wish Ben were here. That's a little better. All right. Now, remember, everybody, that when it comes to children, they become what you pour into them. And so, maybe don't pour poisons into them, both physically and spiritually.
Only
Now,
apple juice.
Only apple juice. And you know, love.
Right.
So here is a little bit of a Men in Black action going on. The father, obey my commandments and live. The son, obey my father's commandments and live. Constantine, look right here. The brainwashing is complete. And, you know, why is it we have to remind ourselves of this? You know, we talk about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil when it comes to AI spirituality. Well, this is my opinion on what the tree of life is. Torah is the way. Torah is the truth. Torah is life. You know, the word Torah means the instructions from the book. And we see this all repeated in the New Testament, that the Messiah is the way, the truth, and the life. The Messiah walked out the Torah as an example for us. And of course, we have this talked about in the future. Here's a little verse that says, "Now go and write it before them in a table and note it in a book, that it may be for a time to come forever and ever. That this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the Torah of Yahuwah, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth, prophesy deceits. Get you out of the way, turn aside out of the path, because the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us." I mean, it's really the state of distraction that we live in both the secular world and the religious world. But, you know, conspiracy theorist, a person that doesn't watch as much TV as you do. Oh, man. I just wanted to share this picture of your dad. It was one of the times we had got together while I worked for Now You See TV. And, man, I remember, like, getting into such deep conversations and all these big plans and going through AI and seeing the things that your dad called out years ago, way in advance, and was warning us and just all the opportunities with AI creativity and stuff that he could have used for seed. And man, I would have loved to see his breakdown of all these things we talked about in today's episode. And I'm just really glad that me and you are continuing on to work on this, bro, because it's getting crazy out there.
Yep.
So that's all the memes for this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed.
Well, thank you, Jake, for another great current news and memes as always. Opa, thank you for another great Opus Corner. I hope you guys enjoyed today's History's Mysteries segment, and please excuse my sense of humor. Stay awake, not woke, subscribe, and stay tuned. If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Son of the legendary Ross Jeremiah Skiba.
It's like I don't even want to wake up.